That night felt like a fragile bridge suspended between who she had been and who she might become. She had always believed love meant not being a burden, meant smiling so others didn't worry, meant stitching herself back together in silence. Now he was gently unlearning those rules for her. He didn't rush the moment or try to transform her pain into lessons. He simply stayed, and sometimes staying is the loudest form of love. She realized then that maybe being held did not make her weak, maybe it meant she wasn't alone in the battlefield anymore. Memories flooded back, days when she laughed without watching herself, nights when sleep came easily, mornings when hope didn't feel heavy. She wondered where that girl went, the one who believed the future could be kind. Life had taken pieces of her along the way, broken promises, quiet betrayals, dreams that wilted before they bloomed. She had learned to lower her expectations so they wouldn't hurt when they fell. But as he watched her with unwavering eyes, she felt a small spark, the faintest echo of that earlier self whispering she wasn't gone, just tired. "You deserve peace," he said, as if stating a fact rather than comforting her. It startled her because she had never put herself and the word, deserve, in the same sentence. She was used to earning everything, love, rest, kindness, as if they were wages, not birthrights. The world had taught her to apologize for taking space. He was gently teaching her she was allowed to exist without justifying it. Those words didn't heal her instantly, but they planted something, like a seed in winter soil waiting for warmth. She leaned back slightly and wiped her tears, embarrassed by their persistence. "What if I disappoint you?" she asked. That was the deepest fear, hidden beneath every exhaustion, not being enough for the people she loved. She thought he would eventually see her cracks and step away. People loved the light in her, not the shadows. She braced herself for reassurance she wouldn't believe. Instead he smiled softly and said, "You don't disappoint me by being real. You'd only disappoint me by pretending you're not hurting." His words wrapped around her like a blanket she didn't know she needed. For years, she believed strength meant silence, endurance meant isolation, love meant never asking for help. Now he was rewriting those meanings beside her. He spoke not like a savior, but like a companion choosing the long road with her. "I can't fight your battles for you," he admitted gently, "but I can fight for you, to make sure you never face them alone, to remind you you're worth every effort." It wasn't dramatic, it was sincere. Outside, the rain softened into a quiet drizzle, as if the sky itself was tired of crying. She listened to the soft rhythm and allowed herself to breathe without apology. For the first time, the silence between them wasn't heavy, it was healing. She didn't have to explain every wound or justify every tear. He didn't need a map of her pain to stand beside it. They sat like that, two people, one tired of fighting, one choosing to fight for her, and in that stillness something inside her unclenched. She thought about how often she had said, "I'm fine," until it sounded like a lie even to herself. She wore strength like armor that had grown too heavy to lift. Admitting she was tired felt like breaking a sacred rule. Yet here she was, vulnerable and unmasked, and the world had not collapsed. Instead, someone held her closer. She realized that maybe strength wasn't about how tightly she held herself together but how bravely she allowed herself to fall apart in safe arms. "There will be days," he said quietly, "when you'll feel this tired again. When getting up feels like climbing mountains. On those days, remember this moment. Remember that you don't face it alone anymore." His voice was steady, not promising perfection, but presence. She had always measured love in grand gestures. Now she saw it lived in small ones, warm hands, listening eyes, patience instead of pressure. He wasn't trying to fix her, he was choosing to stay while she healed at her own pace. She didn't answer right away. Words felt too small for everything swelling inside her: fear, relief, gratitude, lingering sadness. Healing wasn't a switch to flip on. Pain doesn't disappear just because someone cares. But somewhere deep in the tiredness, a new thought stirred. Maybe she was worth fighting for after all. She looked at him then, really looked, and saw not a rescuer but a partner in the struggle, someone willing to stand in the storm rather than wait in the sunshine. "I don't know how to be okay yet," she admitted, almost apologetically. He nodded, as if he expected nothing else. "You don't have to know," he replied. "We'll learn together." Those words loosened the knot around her chest. So much of her life had been about perfection, about having answers, about not showing confusion or fear. Now she was being told it was enough just to try. She wasn't a project to complete or a puzzle to solve, she was a person allowed to grow slowly. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, not possessively but tenderly, like someone handling something irreplaceable. You think you've reached the end, he said softly, but sometimes exhaustion is just your soul asking for gentler days. She closed her eyes, letting the meaning sink in. She had been at war with herself for so long, pushing, demanding, criticizing, that she forgot kindness applied to her too. Maybe the fight she needed to stop was not against the world but against her own impossible expectations. In that moment, she made no grand promises. She didn't vow to be strong tomorrow or to never break again. Instead, she allowed herself one simple decision: she would try. Try to wake up, try to breathe, try to believe him when he said she mattered. Healing wouldn't be linear, and there would still be nights where tears came without reason. But now, those nights no longer felt like lonely battles, they felt like storms she wouldn't face unaccompanied. He held her again, longer this time, as if memorizing the shape of this fragile courage. I choose you, he whispered, not the smiling version, not the perfect version, but this real, exhausted, honest one. She felt something inside her shift, like a door creaking open after years of being shut. She wasn't magically better, but she wasn't alone anymore, and that changed everything quietly but completely. She realized love wasn't found only in laughter, sometimes it was born in tears. Hours passed without them noticing. The world outside moved on, cars, people, distant lives, but inside, time slowed around their shared honesty. She spoke more, haltingly at first, then with growing ease, unraveling stories she had locked away. He listened like each word mattered, not trying to transform her past into lessons but honoring it as part of her. For the first time, she didn't feel like too much. She felt seen, and being seen was its own kind of relief. Later, when the rain stopped completely and a pale light crept through the clouds, she felt lighter, not fixed, not finished, just lighter. She realized that the sentence she had spoken, "I'm tired of fighting," was not a surrender to darkness but a doorway to help. She had been brave in more ways than she ever gave herself credit for. Brave for enduring, brave for admitting exhaustion, brave for allowing someone to stand beside her in it. He stood up and offered his hand, not as a rescuer pulling her from a cliff but as a companion inviting her to take the next step together. She hesitated for only a moment before placing her hand in his. It wasn't a promise that every day would be easy, but it was a commitment that no day would be faced in isolation again. For the first time in a long while, taking a step didn't feel terrifying, it felt shared. As they walked forward, she realized that the world hadn't changed, but she had. The battles were still there, the uncertainties, the shadows, but now there was also a presence beside her that said, without words, you don't have to collapse under this weight anymore. She was still tired, yes, but not hopeless. Tired, but not alone. Tired, but finally allowed to rest without guilt. She looked at him and whispered, "Thank you for fighting for me." He shook his head gently, a small smile touching his lips. "I didn't just fight for you," he said. "I chose you, every version of you, even the tired one, especially the tired one." She felt tears again, but this time they weren't just from pain, they were from relief, from feeling chosen rather than tolerated. And so the story didn't end with her suddenly strong or all wounds healed. It ended with something quieter and more real. Two people standing together, one admitting she was tired of fighting, the other choosing, every day, every moment, to fight for her. Not by forcing her to be strong, but by loving her through her weakness. In that simple, steady love, she found the courage to keep going, not because she had to, but because she finally believed she was worth the effort.